The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
If you really want to doge, this is how you doge. You don't vote for bad legislation that expands government. Thank you.
Now we're talking about taxpayer money, and we're talking about accountability. It is their money. This isn't a government program we're actually spending on. We're actually giving it back to the people of Idaho.
There's other options for making our ballots more secure, such as using watermarks or putting holograms on the ballots.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
I asked the question rhetorically, if we gave them another $1 billion, they wouldn't be happy. Well, we've given them $2 more billion, and it's not enough.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
The other states like Texas and Florida have enacted similar laws to address illegal immigration, both locally and in their communities. And Idaho has the right to protect itself when the federal government has failed to do that.
COVID presented us with quite the enigma. We didn't really know what it was or what to do, but that is no excuse to violate the rights of the citizens of the state of Idaho.
Say vote no on this and let the teachers teach and quit bringing in coaches to teach the teachers to teach, and let's get education going again in Idaho.
I don't know what's coming after this current administration for the feds, and we need this law because our federal laws on immigration have failed.
Mr. President, I think it's incumbent upon us to allow parents to use their hard-earned dollars to provide what's best for their children.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
My concern is that the resilience of Idahoans who believe in self-reliance and self-responsibility will be eroded.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have to rest without them.
Yeah, watch it.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is February 11, 2026. Welcome back to Idaho Signal. It's so great to have you here. February 11th, is that somebody's birthday? Is that Ronald Reagan's birthday? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, I'm Matt Edwards, if I hadn't said that already. And today, we've got a lot to get through, so we're going to be all over the map. But we have a nice guide to get through there. But we have to talk about the Idaho budget circus because the numbers are coming in, folks, and they're telling a story that the big spenders don't want to hear. So remember last summer, revenues looked soft after those big tax cuts. And Governor Little, knowing that we constitutionally must have a balanced budget, came out over the summer and slapped a 3% across-the-board holdback on spending, sparing only education. We weren't going to touch education, K through 12. So conservative budget hawks, had mixed feelings but overall, we were ready to get to work. But by January, when the session kicked off, the December revenues came roaring in, and they were way above projections. So much so that it wiped out the entire shortfall that we'd been seeing all fiscal year. And now the January numbers come out and they beat projections again. So imagine that. Tax cuts stimulating the economy, bringing in more revenue overall. Who could have seen that coming? Oh, wait, anybody with a basic grasp of economics. Yet here come the Democrats and their squishy Republican enablers, wringing their hands about painful cuts and floating ideas like pausing recent tax cuts so nobody gets hurt. Now, remember, these are the same folks who act like government spending is some sacred cow that can never be trimmed without some sort of catastrophe. Well, newsflash, the sky didn't fall. Revenues have rebounded, and Idaho families are able to keep more of their money. But then just yesterday, boy, this takes the cake. Progressive Republican Senator Kevin Cook out of Bonneville County presents a bill cutting 4% this year and 5% next year from the brand new Idaho constitutional Idaho Parental Choice Tax Credit Program. This is a program that is barely off the ground. It's already hugely popular with over 5,000 families signed up. That's about 9,300 or 9,300 students or so for. And it's just in it, this program's just in its infancy, and it's meant to cover K through 12 learning, which according to Governor Little was not to be touched. But Cook wants to cut it. And while revenues are now flowing in past projections, I mean, come on. This isn't fiscal responsibility. It's a vendetta. You see, Cook voted against the school choice bill last year and is now rehashing the same tired arguments in order to hamper the program. He's not protecting the budget. His crew is busy protecting the education cartel's monopoly, going after struggling families to spare bloated bureaucracies. That's not being conservative. That's being a gimp for big education. Folks, the data is clear. Tax cuts work, spending restraints work, and school choice works. Do not let these big government progressives undo it. We must stay on top of them. And one other guy that likes to stay on top of this stuff is Brian Allman. He joins me right now from the Capitol. Brian, good to see you this morning. First, let's get into the numbers real quick because these December or the January numbers came out. And we have a graphic here. The number that came in, $564 million, just above that January projection. You can see on the right hand of your screen there. It's the dark bar is just above the projected lighter bar there. So that's the third month in a row that we've had revenue higher than what they projected.
Good morning, Matt. And that is obviously good news. It's interesting looking back a few months ago when the revenue projections were first starting to not be met, when revenues came in under projection, and you had Democrats and a handful of Republicans. They were acting like the sky was falling, and it's all the fault of school choice, $50 million. It's all the fault of $450 million in tax cuts. We're going to be in trouble. And on the other hand, you had other people, Senator Groh on JFAC, even Governor Little were saying, this isn't the end of the world, just relax. And it turns out that some of the explanations that people had that businesses were adjusting the way they do their taxes, their quarterly taxes and such, and how much they pay and how much they retain, they were doing that in response to the changes in the One Big Beautiful Bill. So it wasn't really the end of the world because, as Representative Tanner has pointed out, we're not in a recession here. This isn't an emergency like it was in 2008, 2009. This is just a kind of an oddity in the way that the money is coming in. However, that said, I think anything that inspires people to cut the budget is a good thing. It's been insane to me watching people wring their hands and tear up over the thought of 3%, 4%, or 5% budget cuts when the budget for the state as a whole has gone up 50%, 60% over the last 5 or 6 years. Just returning to last year's budget or 2 years ago's budget, is it really the end of the world? Is that a draconian cut? Are we cutting into the bone, like some of them say?
Yeah, hardly, especially when you put it into context over the last 4 or 5 years, what we've seen. Okay, so then that's why you and I both were a little taken aback yesterday when Senator Kevin Cook showed up in committee to present this. Let's watch this. It's about a minute.
Is simple. It is not to get rid of House Bill 93 or the parental choice whatsoever. It is simply to say that we need to get a little bit of money out of that as well that we can apply to the bottom line. And so basically what it's doing is, if you remember, the governor did a 3% holdback. JFAC voted to do a 1% holdback for 2026 and a 2% holdback for 2027. So if you add those together for 2026, that would be a 4%, and for 2027, that would be a 5%. And that's all that I'm asking here. Now, the reason why that did not apply to this parental choice bill is because it's a tax credit. JFAC never sees it. It never comes to the general fund. And so I'm this RS is basically saying take out a 4% from the tax credit and a 5% from the tax credit for 2027.
So have you ever seen Republicans say, we got to cut tax credits?
Yeah, he's essentially saying we're going to raise taxes in a roundabout way, and a couple of things there. Like he said, it doesn't go through JFAC because it's not spending; it's a tax cut, which does reduce revenue, but it reduces the expected revenue that they would otherwise have. But it's not spending. They're not spending money. They are allowing people to take money. It's kind of a semantic thing, but there is a difference there. And I don't know where to even start on this. I know Senator Cook was complaining in JFAC the other day about the cuts to launch. The governor actually offered, hey, launch is $80 million appropriated. You can have $10 million of it back to balance the budget. And then, so JFAC voted to do that, and then $10 million again next year. But in that case, a lot of that money, as explained by the testifiers in JFAC, was due to students who were awarded grant money for launch and then chose not to go to school that semester, or they went to school but their grades didn't hold up, or for whatever reason they fell below the eligibility threshold. And so that money was then returned by the schools. Remember, it never goes to the people, it goes straight to the schools. It literally is a voucher. That money was returned to then the government. So that's sitting there in the launch account, the in-demand careers fund. And so it's already there. It's not like it's taking money from anybody. On the flip side, though, like you said, more than 5,000 families have already applied for the parental choice tax credit, and I don't even think we're halfway through the filing period. So there could be a lot more. There's going to be more families who want this than there's money available. So what Senator Cook is trying to do is cut down. He's going to say to several families, $2.5 million worth, do the math on that, how many students that would cover. No, you can't have that because I'm mad that they cut launch.
Right. And the fact that the governor said he wouldn't touch K through 12 funding, and then Cook comes over the top and says, well, actually, we did cut funding. And this was a line of a questioning that Senator Cindy Carlson, who's also on JFAC, brings up. Let's watch this clip.
Probably not going to change any minds here, because I see where I already know, being on JFAC, that we do have to cut. But I'm going to be voting no, and I just wanted to explain why, if there's a motion. This is the first year of implementation of this legislation. We haven't even seen it get off the ground yet, and we're already cutting from it. The man on the second floor said that K through 12 would be left whole, and we haven't really largely touched K through 12. And so that would be why I would be against this. Thank you.
Would you like to respond to that?
I would, thank you. So as Senator Carlson and I both serve on JFAC, and it is true the governor said he did not hold K-12, that he would hold them harmless, that nothing would be taken out of that. But if you dig down, you'll see that that's not quite right. $22 million were reduced from the fiscal 26 related to the support unit adjustments. So that's $22 million. $42 million were reduced from the fiscal year 27 related to support unit adjustments. $30 million was reduced in the governor's rec for the IDL, which was $10 million, and then in virtual programs was $20 million, so a total of $30 million there. So for the grand total, $94 million equates to a 3.5% reduction from the fiscal year 26 appropriation. And so our K through 12 did get hit. And so again, I'm just standing here saying that you give one person a haircut, we should give the other person a haircut. Not that they're opposite, they're both educating our kids. But K-12 was certainly hit, $94 million, and I'm only proposing a 4%, 5%. So, but thank you.
Follow up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Cook, your numbers are speaking about actions that have not yet taken place in JFAC for the most part. So I believe that we will still have changes in the offing, and your $22 million, that was because of to clarify, which you just said, support units. There's our support units, we're funding less because we have a lower attendance throughout the state. And I just wanted to clarify that.
What was that? What was that? I mean, right? I mean, she nailed it right there. That's one of the reasons why he's seeing those cuts in there.
It was interesting hearing that in relation to the oral arguments from the tax credit case a few weeks ago, where one of their arguments was that appropriating any money outside of public education takes money away from public education. That's been their narrative. That's been the Democrats' narrative, and a few unfortunate Republicans take that to its logical conclusion. And they would say that the Constitution requires students to not leave the public school system, because if a student leaves the system and goes elsewhere, to homeschool, to private school, to co-op, even just to leave the state, that reduces enrollment. And if enrollment falls enough, then the support unit numbers drop, which means funding drops. So people making choices, families and individuals, free people making choices that politicians or bureaucrats might disagree with, is not an excuse to completely override their rights.
No, exactly. And what they're basically saying is we want these kids in public schools. So that way we can keep funding at the current levels and then keep asking for more and more and more. Just that clip in the beginning of the show with Vito Barbieri, where he's like, they asked for $1 billion and we've given them $2 billion and they keep asking for more. Exactly. So it's preposterous. And let's not forget, folks, you're actually saving money per student here. If it costs the state $8,000 to $9,000 or more to educate your child in public school, yet if you take your kid elsewhere and or homeschool or do whatever you want, and you're capped at $5,000, then $5,000 is lower than 8 or 9, right, Brian? Last time I checked, I went to public school.
I went to public schools as well, so I'm pretty sure that's right. But I might have to check with my homeschool friends upstairs.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's kind of the line, and that's kind of the line of questioning here that was kind of preposterous with Senator Zito questioning Senator Cook. Let's watch this.
I just would like to make the comment that the way I understand this is a tax credit, and the families in the state of Idaho are facing close to a 3% inflation rate. I'm not exactly sure how that's adjusted. I've heard as high as 7% inflation rate. So they're already taking a hit. And so if we can, anytime we can give tax dollars back or relieve the tax burden of the people of the state of Idaho and the families so that they can afford to send their kids to school, so they can afford to feed their families, in my mind, I cannot see how that's a bad thing. And so I'm going to vote no, because cutting taxes for our families is never a bad thing. It comes back into the economy. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I comment on that?
Sure.
Chairman? I agree with you on that, Senator Zito. But do you realize that 90% of the people in the state of Idaho don't pay the amount of tax credit they get back for this program? In other words, I'm getting back more than what I paid the state in taxes. So where does that extra money come from? It's going to hit the general fund. Okay, so yes, I believe it. Yeah, well, it's my money, so give it back to me. Okay, I'm okay with that, but we're giving them more than what they paid. And again, it's a year where we have some problems. We've got some revenue problems.
Yeah, exactly. So he's trying to use this argument that doesn't work, Brian, because if I send my child to public school to get paid by the state, they're spending more than I'm putting in, right?
Yeah. Like you laid it out. If the child goes to a public school, then the state pays $9,000, $10,000, whatever, depending on the district. If they go take advantage of this program, then the state pays a maximum of $5,000. And in both cases, the parents of that child are taxpayers. Maybe they pay a lot of tax, maybe they pay a little bit of tax. But the goal here, I guess this is the heart of the issue. What is the goal here? What is the goal of the public school system? Is it to funnel money to teachers unions and administrators and public employees, or is it to educate children? If the goal were to educate children, then it wouldn't matter which direction you'd go. You'd want to allow families to take advantage of whatever works best for them and save money in the process. But if the goal is actually to funnel money to teachers unions and political allies, then you're going to see exactly, I think, what you see with Senator Cook in this hearing.
Yeah, you're going to see him fighting for this. One other interesting point here before we let you go is and everybody tries to play these games, but this bill may not have gotten, because it got printed in the Senate Education Committee. It may not have gotten printed had it gone to a different committee. And that's kind of like, I think, where Senator Tammy Nichols was going with her line of questioning. Let's watch her question here.
Comes in a few ways, and one of them is a technicality, and I don't know how this works just because of past experiences that we've had, but this seems to be in a section of code that is a tax code and not necessarily an education section of code. And I know that there's been a lot of discussion in the past on tax bills are supposed to start over on the other side. And so I was just curious, does this stay? I mean, this is tax code 63. So does this stay in education, or is it really a tax bill that we're actually looking at here? So if you can address that first, and then I have a follow-up question after that.
Okay. You good with that? All right.
I can address it, or you can.
Oh, go ahead. You're fine.
This is a print hearing, so you can introduce basically here. Where it goes from here will be determined for the full hearing, but this is a print hearing.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Okay. So, for what it's worth.
As Senator Nichols pointed out, the parental choice tax credit, and this was deliberate by the crafters of the bill, it is not in the section of state code that deals with public schools or education. It's in the section of state code that deals with taxes. And the whole point was to make sure that this gives maximal control to parents. They can claim the parental choice tax credit for non-public students the same way that we claim the grocery tax credit for anybody who lives in our homes. There's no oversight from the Department of Education. They're not going to come in there and audit schools or audit homeschool students to make sure they're teaching the right things, because that was a big concern. If you're going to let parents make the choice, then you need to let them make the choice. And so it's in the tax credit section of code. And Senator Cook knows this, and Chairman Lent knows this. But the tax commission, or the tax committee, the Revenue and Taxation Committee, or local government taxation on the Senate side, passed House Bill 93 last year. And so they would likely not pass a bill to handicap it before it's even gotten off the ground. So instead, he takes it to a much more friendly committee. The final vote to send it to print was 6-3. The three in opposition, Carlson, Nichols, and Zito, voted for the tax credit last year. The 6 who voted to print it, they voted against it. So this is a naked attempt to undo what the legislature did last year.
Yeah, it's very clear. All right, Brian, where can people follow you and keep track of your work today?
At Brian Allman on Twitter. I'll be posting throughout the day, and I'm still working on some stuff over at GemSayChronicle.com. Go there to learn about all your elected officials, whether they're doing what you want or not.
Yes, or not. Thanks, Brian. We'll check in with you. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, see you tomorrow.
Excuse me, folks. Okay. Very good. It's so bizarre, what is kind of fascinating though, is like, if I think back to just a few years ago, where, the conservatives were the ones trying to get their bills this way and that way, and they were getting stalled here and stalled there. And that still happens, of course, but now you got the progressives, kind of like they have their hands tied a little bit, and they're trying to maneuver here and maneuver there, and it's this tug of war back and forth, folks. But this is the whole job of this program, is to stay on top of this stuff, let you guys know what's going on out there, and then and wherever you can insert yourself into the process to keep this machine moving backwards. Push the machine back into its corner so that it can be controlled the way it needs to be controlled, and largely dismantled as well. So, all right. Well, we've got a bunch of committees, a bunch of bills that were presented that had testimony yesterday and this morning. So we're going to get into that on the other side of the break. We also will have hopefully Catherine Hartley from the Pacific Justice Institute. You saw the news yesterday. The Blaine Amendment went down in flames in the House, but it's gotten further than it has before. The attempt to repeal an old section of code that has been deemed unconstitutional across the land. We're going to get there, folks, but we'll get a reaction from Ms. Hartley and see what the next steps are moving forward. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among the world's silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit, gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together.
All right, folks, we want you to call in. Let's throw up that number when you got it. 208-402-4915 is the number. I've got a few voicemails backed up here, and we haven't been able to get to them, but we will. I promise. Leave your message, and we will play it on the air. So let us know what you're thinking. You know, if you've been watching the legislature for the better part of a month. We're about exactly a month in, if that's how you look at it from day to day. We're almost there. And so we want to know what you're thinking. We want to know what you see, what you're hopeful for. And if you think we're getting it wrong, I don't care. Whatever it is, 208-402-4915, 208-402-4915. All right, let's talk about E-Verify, folks, because that was the hot topic last year as well when it came to illegal immigration in illegal immigrants, people working. We heard, I think it was 2 years ago, we heard that the Idaho dairy industry alone, that the dairymen's own lobbyists confessed that they thought that at least 70% of the workforce on Idaho's dairies would fail an E-Verify check on their immigration status. 70%, folks. 70%. It's incredible. That should scare all of us. But so we need to rectify that, and we also need to encourage the dairy industry to do more outreach and to reevaluate how they're hiring, what their workforce is, and what they can do to entice and offer opportunity to Idahoans. There's plenty of hungry young people out there that need jobs and they need careers, and sometimes you got to do the garbage work before you work your way up. And I mean that's what America was built on. And we can't just be handing this stuff away. So we need to be able to do that. So what was that? Was that this morning? This morning they listened to Senate Bill 1247, which is called the Idaho E-Verify Act. And this sounds so great, the E-Verify Act. And basically what this does is implement E-Verify for employers, but it's only for employers that have 150 employees or more, and it's only for employers that have a contract with the state of Idaho. So it's not everybody. I don't know how many Idaho dairies out there are contracted with the state of Idaho. Probably not very many, if any at all. But that's what this bill does. Now, there's another bill that came up, which is going to be reintroduced by Representative Jordan Redmond, hopefully today, and it'll get its own number, and that would implement E-Verify across the board. So we've got two competing bills that are coming through the system here. We had Michael Angeletta from Secure Idaho on the day or two after the big press conference in the Capitol, where a bunch of the conservative legislators unveiled a plan forward, submitting 6 or 7 bills that are going to deal with this illegal immigration problem. And so he testified this morning in committee on Senate Bill 1247, and he had some banger remarks here. So let's listen to that.
Michael Angeletta, and I'm a small business owner, and I'm also testifying on behalf of Secure Idaho in opposition to SB 1247. As a small business owner, I can first say that E-Verify isn't onerous. It's a free online system. It uses the same information already required on the federal I-9 form, and for most hires, it takes seconds, sometimes a few minutes for every new hire. When Idahoans hear the title of this bill, it's called the Idaho E-Verify Act, they reasonably expect broad E-Verify enforcement. But in reality, SB 1247 is much narrower, and it merely just codifies existing government practice rather than expanding meaningful enforcement to where illegal hiring actually occurs. The bill applies only to public agencies and a limited set of large state contractors, meaning that most private employers are completely unaffected, including the industries where the actual illegal hiring is most prevalent. And as has been already publicly noted, Idaho already uses E-Verify for government hiring under an existing executive order. So SB 1247 merely formalizes that framework, but it doesn't materially change any outcomes. More importantly, the bill preserves the main illegal labor loopholes. Illegal labor is rarely hired directly. It flows through subcontractors, labor brokers, and misclassified independent contractors. SB 1247 leaves all of those structures intact. There's no meaningful penalties, no subcontractor accountability, no license suspension authority, and enforcement is largely discretionary. Because of this, employer behavior is not going to change. At Secure Idaho, we support real E-Verify enforcement. We oppose legislation that creates the appearance of action without delivering results. I would also note that there is legislation being introduced today which addresses E-Verify enforcement more directly by covering the private labor market and closing.
And if we could keep our comments specific to Senate Bill 1247, please.
Yes, sorry. Members of the committee, SB 1247 creates the appearance of E-Verify enforcement without delivering it, and that delays the real reforms Idaho needs. And for those reasons, as a small business owner and representing Secure Idaho, we respectfully urge you to hold SB 1247. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions?
All right. Very well said there. And as they alluded to, another bill coming today. We'll pay attention to that as well. Senator Ben Taves out of Coeur d'Alene, District 4, had some comments as well. Let's take a listen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I appreciate the intent of the sponsor. I've taken existing policy or executive orders, those types of things, and codified them. So I see the value of moving something from practice into law so that we can make sure that it continues. I also appreciated the concept of making us our law similar to Utah's law, creating consistency between states there. I did some quick research and I found that private employers with over 150 employees are required to E-Verify in Utah, and they're currently looking at bringing that number down, I think, to 15 employees. So I feel like, we're moving in the right direction. I don't think it goes far enough, and I won't be able to support the motion.
Yeah, it doesn't go far enough. It doesn't go far enough. And I love the point earlier that the way that this bill was titled, the Idaho E-Verify Act. It's like, oh, it's the savior. It's like it's those tricks. It's those tricks that Democrats pull in Congress when they say, oh, the Affordable Care Act. And it's like there was nothing affordable about the Affordable Care Act. You can like your doctor, you can keep your doctor, all of that BS, right? So it's the same thing here. So this other bill that's coming up, we had one introduced, but I think they're reworking it a little bit, but it's going to come back today. So we're going to definitely pay attention to this other bill and make sure that both of these bills that are being considered right here that we know exactly what's going on. They're not going to pull the wool over our eyes. Once again, I don't know how much, when you think about the press in this state and where they shine their light on and where they ignore things, it's like they don't want to give you all the facts. They don't want to keep you informed of what's going on. And sure, we obviously have a bias here, but we want to show you the entire landscape, the whole chessboard, the entire chessboard. And you can make up your mind. Obviously, like I just said, I have my own opinion. The folks that come on this program have their own opinion. But at least we're trying to shine a light and get you the information so you can make your own decisions. It's just like all of the other avenues that are out there on the right side of the aisle that try to just keep you informed. All the different scorecards and all the different analysis for different bills and who's more conservative than the other, who's a worse Democrat than the other, who's a friendly, all of that is just information. And if you have one or two trusted people that you follow, great. If you're taking in 10 to 12 and you're aggregating them and you're trying to figure out where you land, great. That's good too, as long as you're paying attention and being informed. And that's exactly what we need to keep doing here. So one of the people that helps us in that realm, of course, is Catherine Hartley, and she joins us now from the Pacific Justice Institute. Ms. Hartley, thank you so much for coming in. It was a devastating day yesterday. It caught us a little bit off guard. I wasn't expecting the vote to come up so quickly, but it did, and it went by rather fast with the the attempt to put on the ballot the repeal. I'm telling the viewers here, the attempt to put on the ballot to repeal the Blaine Amendment from the Constitution failed yesterday with a 41-28 vote, and we needed 47 votes. What is your reaction?
Yeah, thanks for having me today, Matt, and happy Wednesday. Of course, it's very disappointing that it didn't get through the House, but I would say if we're looking at the positives, we had a strong majority of the House vote for this, and that is farther than we've gotten last year and the year before. And so that tells me that more people are aware of this issue. There are more people that are understanding this issue. And so we keep trying to educate people and inform people about this and correct the numerous misunderstandings that there are on this issue. In particular, that this is not just about education funding, which seems to be one of the most common misconceptions of this, and that somehow removing the Blaine Amendment will suddenly turn on a financial spigot for religious schools and the state becoming very intimately involved in churches and religious schools, which is absolutely untrue. And so, yeah, I think, yes, very disappointed, but I think it is slowly heading in the right direction. And I also think we should note, the legislators that voted no on this are obviously afraid of the voters. And so I think we should note that, and perhaps the constituents that of those legislators that might be listening to this need to realize that your legislator doesn't trust you in the voting box, because that's what this is about. This is not the legislators even agreeing that the Blaine Amendment should be repealed. It's simply just to put it on the ballot in front of the voters.
Yeah, that's a great point. The folks in red there say, no, the people don't need to decide this. We're better off. We're better off just not leaving it up to them. And another point is most of these people, when they did have a chance to argue or debate the bill, either in committee or in the past, they've all said what you just said. What you said is not true, which is they all keep saying that if we get rid of this, it's just going to open the floodgates and fund religious schools. And that is not true. So either these folks are just, blindly unaware and are not paying attention to the information that we're sending out. And I reminded people yesterday that we did invite them to join you and I last night, where we ended up canceling it, of course, but we were prepared last night to have you sit up there and get peppered with questions from these folks in red, so that way they can learn. But I think there's only two things going forward. Either A, we have to have more conversations with these folks in red, or we need to find people to primary them.
Absolutely. And all of their questions, I'm more than happy to answer and do have good legal and policy-based answers to those questions and would welcome that type of conversation. But yes, you make a good point. I mean, this is something that, elections coming up, and I think it's important to note that the people in red are afraid of the voters, because that's what this particular issue is about.
Yeah. All right. Well, going forward here, I mean, the next and again, this is the only opportunity is either A, we gather petitions ourselves, or B, we try to get the legislature on board to do this. The next opportunity, of course, would be next session, unless someone wanted to rerun it again this year, but that's not going to happen. So next session, we'll spend the year educating people. Maybe we'll plan some events and people can come up and ask questions. But the next opportunity to even put this on the ballot would be 2028, I believe. So we've got some time here to educate everybody. Where do you want people to go? How can they help you, Kate, in this endeavor?
You're welcome to visit our website, which is pji.org. You can get in touch with me directly through the website if you would like. And yes, more than happy to talk about this issue in particular, any other religious freedom issues, and I'm here to help. So please feel free to reach out.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much for jumping on real quick and to get your reaction. I hope you have a great week.
Thanks, Matt. You too. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care. All right. Yeah. And folks, we'll leave that page up. We'll leave the petitions up. Of course, we'll leave the petition up. I mean, that's the whole deal. That is Blaine. Oh, you got the QR code first, but blaine.idahopetitions.com. That has the documentary Idaho versus Christians, which you can watch there. And please just share that page, share that video. It's on YouTube. I think it has close to 60,000 views on YouTube. It's got over 100 or 200,000 over on X. So you can find it. It's on Rumble as well. So you can find it all over our video platforms. But sign the petition, send it around. People are still signing it. And head over to blaine.idahopetitions.com. Okay, moving on. Now, let's get back to some of these committee works that's been going on, the committee stuff here. We talked about the E-Verify. There was, actually, you guys had mentioned, I don't know if we caught the vote. Did we catch the vote on Senate Bill 1233? Are they still voting on that? Senate Bill 1233 was on the floor. Is that live? Let's listen in.
But in Idaho, when courts take a look at statutes, if
this is about keeping Sharia law, I believe, out of.
Just read it. It's the case is Verska. Verska, it's a hospital. Verse is a hospital somewhere in Idaho, but that's what the courts say. If the language is clear, we're just going to read the language. And if there's an absurd result as a result of reading the language, that's the legislature has to fix it. It's not us. So we're just reading it as it's written. If the language is ambiguous, then yes, courts will take a look at what the legislative intent was, but they stick to meeting minutes. And I suppose now that we have technology and we have video in our committees and maybe even on the floor, maybe they'll go to the video and take a look at what legislators thought. But in order to do that, again, they would have to find the language to be ambiguous. When I read this bill, I think you probably could make a case that it's unambiguous, and so the court's just going to read it and say we're reading it and this is what it says. even if they found it to be ambiguous and wanted to know a little more about the intent of this legislation, I have to tell you, when you read it, it doesn't say anything about Sharia law or Mormons or polygamy or any of the things that we've heard talked here. I do believe it makes it clear that this statute intends to keep the courts secular, because it goes back to making sure that any decisions that they issue, rulings they make, that the courts stick with the Constitution. And the Constitution is a religious neutral document intending to create a religious neutral government.
So what you're watching here is Democrat Senator James Ruckty out of Pocatello. This is Senate Bill 1233, called the Constitutional Courts Act. It was presented before the Senate by Senator Dan Foreman, and this is one of two bills that is trying to deal with keeping Sharia out of our court system here in Idaho. We had Congressman Russ Fulcher on just yesterday, I believe, or the day before, talking about this issue. He was one of the co-founders of the Sharia Free America Caucus up in D.C. But down here in the states, as have many other states so far, have also tried to take on this issue. So let's see if anybody else gets up to debate this bill.
Mr. President, senators, debate the bill.
You have the floor.
Just to be simple, the language is pretty simple. It doesn't outlaw
we'll listen to this
any
for a little bit.
particular culture or religious law and then stop. What it says is you can't apply cultural or religious law if it's unconstitutional. So I don't think a court could find that this statute is unconstitutional, because that's the test. That's what it says. If it's unconstitutional, if it's not, it's unconstitutional. But if it complies with the Constitution, then the court can apply it as it deems appropriate. But the Constitution is the backstop, as it is in all things. Thank you, senators.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Foreman, you're recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is important to maintain a clear focus on the very simple but important meaning and purpose of this legislation, the sole purpose of which is to prevent the use in our state courts of any body of religious or cultural law that does not fully support and conform with the rights of all citizens as defined in the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Idaho. The text of this bill serves to act as a reaffirmation of our appreciation of and support for our existing body of law that is endemic to supporting the American way of life and our collective values that we have enjoyed as a nation for the last 250 years. Mr. President, debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question before the Senate is, shall Senate Bill number 1233 pass the Senate? The Secretary will call the roll.
Senate getting ready to vote here. This will be the first time this session we've carried a live vote in the Senate. They'll do a roll call vote. There is no screen. They don't put up a screen like they do in the House to see who votes yes and no. So we'll just listen and tally along with them.
Adams.
Mr. President,
Senator Adams.
I would like 60 seconds to explain my vote.
Senator, you have 60 seconds to explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. While I appreciate intent in legislation a lot, after listening to the debate especially and reading the legislation, it appears that, and I would agree with the senator from 29, that the U.S. Constitution is what we base all of our laws off of. So I fail to see justification for writing a law that says make sure we follow the Constitution. That is the baseline. So the senator votes nay.
Anthony? Aye. Bierke? Blaylock? Burtonshaw? Carlson? Cook? Den Hartog? Foreman? Galloway? Grow? Guthrie? Hart? Kaiser? Cole? Lakey? Lenny? Lind? Nichols?
60 seconds, Mr. President.
Senator, you have 60 seconds to explain.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too appreciate the intent behind this. I feel that our court systems need to be held to the highest caliber and that what our Constitution ensures us is what we're utilizing. But my problem with this is that I do feel, and listening to the debate kind of just clarified some things for me, that it is still a legal risk. My concern lies with the potential conflict with federal arbitration law and constitutional protections. And as it was mentioned, I don't want to be walking into a problem that we know that has been handled in other states with similar laws and have to go to court and have a circuit decide and set precedents on what we have. So I'm going to vote no at this time, but appreciate the intent.
Senator Nichols votes nay.
Okonowitz? Robbie? Ruckte? Shippey? Taylor? Tabes? Van Orden? Ward Engelking? Wintrow? Woodward? Cito?
Senator Zito, you have 60 seconds to explain your vote.
Thank you. You know, I was on the State Affairs Committee across the rotunda in 2017 when this bill, 17 or 18, when this bill came up, only under a different name, American Laws for American Courts. And we had a lengthy hearing in committee. And I was absolutely shocked at some of the Sharia law issues that were brought up, and to listen to the men talk about how they would discipline their wives and how that should be legal in American courts, where those things that would be done in American courts would land them in prison for probably the rest of their lives. I agree that we need to protect our courts and protect our people. That protection comes from the involvement of every citizen in this state and in this country to ensure that our judges follow the Constitution and that the people that we elect stand strong for us and make sure that our rights are preserved and protected. No law can do that if the people themselves don't take action and become engaged. Thank you, Mr. Pro
What's your
Tem.
vote, Senator?
I don't know.
Senator Zito votes nay.
Sutterveld? Bierke? Burtonshaw? Lenny? Lind? Van Orden? Wintrow? Seiderveld? There's also paired votes. Senator Semmelroth votes aye. Senator Berndt votes nay. Senator Ricks votes aye. Senator Harris votes nay.
Roll call shows 15 aye, 19 nay, 1 absent excused, a majority having failed to be reached. Senate Bill 1233 has failed to pass the second and will be filed in the office of the Secretary.
Okay, well, there you have it, folks. The Senate Bill 1233 has failed, and that leaves us left with House Bill. Oh, where'd it go? I had my notes right here. House Bill 602. House Bill 602, the enforcement of foreign laws. That is the other anti-Sharia bill that is floating through the House side. And with the Senate having defeated this bill over here, it's up to 602 to make it through. So we will definitely keep tabs on that. Very important bill as we read the tea leaves here throughout the state, throughout the country, and the world, of course. All right. Looks like the Senate will be adjourning there shortly anyway, but we'll keep it going. We do had a couple other things we want to get under the wire here. House Bill 528 was presented by Representative Chris Bruce, and he came on the program. We watched him introduce the bill a week or so ago, and he was on the program last week talking about it. This is called directed blood product transfusion. And if you recall, I believe it was last year, he tried to pass a bill that would say, it would try to either, label blood that had the mRNA vaccine in it, and maybe as well as other things, so that if you need a blood transfusion, you know what kind of blood you're getting. And that it didn't progress and make it through. So he's back with a different bill, and he changed it up a little bit, and it's more general in this sense because it models some things that happen in other states too. It's House Bill 528, and let me just read the portion here that you'll be interested in. It says here that a healthcare provider or facility may not prohibit a patient from providing through blood establishment complying with all federal requirements. It may not prohibit a patient from providing the patient's own blood or the blood product of the patient's directed donor for any potential transfusion related to such patient's health care. So this basically says you can BYOB should you need to. Bring your own blood should you need a donation. And it goes on to lay out some specifics here. So and again, this is a very interesting topic and a very valid one with all the concern out there. And so there was some fascinating public testimony today on this bill. Let's listen to one. Is it Clinton? Let's listen to him.
There we go. My name is Dr. Clinton Ohlers, and my PhD is focused on the history of science. And I got involved. I represent Safe Blood, and we match transfusion recipients with blood donors. And I became involved in this issue because of my deep concern as a scholar, seeing scientific studies used to misinform the public in favor of for-profit interests. And claims, for example, that the directed donor blood is somehow less safe than that from stored blood, is based on a study by Dorsey et al. That actually demonstrates the contrary. And so these are false fears and concerns that are being raised, but they are used to suppress people's abilities to get the blood of their choice. And that has led to patients either having to go without blood or to have to travel to other states. And Idaho is a big state for this. We had a patient who had to travel all the way to Utah just to get blood he felt comfortable and safe with because there was no hospital in Idaho that he was able to do this. And so this is a right that was previously uncontroversial up until just a couple of years ago, really with the rollout of the mRNA vaccines. And now we see people from states, particularly in the Northwest. A family in Washington state had to travel to Pennsylvania just to give blood from the parents to their own daughter. Most tragically, I spoke with a woman in Minnesota. She was receiving blood through her blood bank with no problem, and then they arbitrarily decided to stop that, and she had to travel to Florida to get blood. Now, this is a significant expense and hardship for people at the most vulnerable points in their lives, and When I spoke with her, she said, Clinton, you know, I'm awaiting a bone marrow transplant and I'm too weak to travel. And if my levels drop again, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I would really urge the people of Idaho to bring Idaho into the free states of the union on this and protect their patient rights.
Well said there. Well said there. I hope that seemed to convince and just enough people on the committee to get this bill through. So it passed 7-6 in committee. Very close, 7-6, but it heads out to the floor for a full vote. I don't know what's so controversial about this, but there you have it. 7-6 was the committee vote. That's House Bill 528. So if that is something that is on your radar and you want to take up, I urge you to contact your legislatures and let them know that you are for this bill and you want them to vote for it on the House floor. Okay, final bill here with Senator Brian Lenny that we're going to highlight. In an effort to clean up old code, there was this piece of code that has been sitting around for at least 17 years. And nobody's done a thing with it because they stopped it 17 years ago. I'll let Lenny have the few words here.
Well, unlike the previous one, is fairly simple. This just deals with getting rid of old, obsolete code. This bill eliminates Chapter 60, Title 67 of Idaho Code relating to the Idaho Women's Commission. We've all seen bills coming through our committees and through the State House that are just literally code cleanup. This is one of those bills. As I've stated before, we all passed the Code Cleanup Act. We voted for the Code Cleanup Act last year, which, quote, gets rid of obsolete, outdated, and unnecessary provisions in Idaho Code. This is one of those provisions. The Idaho Women's Commission was defunded 17 years ago. So getting rid of this code does not affect anybody or anything or any budget. There's no Women's Commission, there's no money, there's no staff, there's nothing happening with it. It's just obsolete code, and this bill just kind of cleans it up. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Chairman, Senator Lenny, just a couple questions. First of all, are you married?
I guess you can answer that if you like, Senator Lenny. That's
Yes,
I didn't see that one coming.
Mr. Chair, Senator Taves, yes, to a woman, if that was the follow-up.
Oh. At 8:50, the chairman lost control of the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, for follow-ups. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Lenny, I'm just wondering if your wife supports this legislation.
Senator Lenny, again, you're welcome to answer that.
Mr. Chair, Senator Taves, I have not spoken to her directly about this, but I would assume she would, knowing her since we've been married for about 23 years now, so.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Mosley, thank you for being in committee today. I was wondering if you could answer this question. What is a woman?
I was waiting for more on that question, but Dr. Mosley.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Shippey, a woman has 2 X chromosomes, but I must tell you that I am a specialist in 15th century poetry, medieval poetry, not a biologist. So I would recommend that you ask a biologist.
Senator Shippey.
I guess just a comment. I'm not a biologist, but I would say that a woman is an adult human female. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, the bill passed committee, so it'll move on. Moving on. A little bit of fun there in the committee today. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. If you're over on our YouTube channel, we're so grateful for you watching us there. Make sure you hit the alert button so you know exactly when we go live. Sometimes we go live with some specials as well. But otherwise, you can find us here Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific, 11:30 Mountain Time. And of course, we're over on Rumble, X, Facebook, and Telegram. Look for us over there. Leave your message, 208-402-4915, and we'll play your voicemail on the air. IdahoSignal.live if you want to tune into the show just with the audio, no video. You can do that over there as the show loops throughout the day. And AmericanSmokeCompany.com, AmericanSmokeCo.com for American Smoke Company's smoked salts for your meats, your veggies, and your eggs, and whatever else you want to put it on. Sometimes I just eat it raw. No, don't do that. Folks, we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Pie Day down at the Capitol. Check it out. Homeschoolers bringing pie for those hungry legislators. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bill, I think it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.